Hello, and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm, brought to you by funkandstuff.net. This is the interview show that gets deep into the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. Available in video format at funkandstuff.net and on YouTube. Truth and Rhythm can also be enjoyed on the go in its audio podcast edition from iTunes and other leading providers. I am your host, Scott Dr. Scott Goldfine, musicologist and author of Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk. You got to get your copy if you don't have it yet over at Amazon. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, I thank you very much for your continued interest and support. My guest today is Erique Dial. That is spelled E-R-I-Q-U-E, Erique. He's a writer, producer, keyboard player, and DJ who contributed to some of the 1980s funk dance act Vaughan Mason and crew's biggest hits, and also toured with legendary poet-singer Gil Scott-Heron. Dial co-wrote and played on Mason's top 40 track, You Can Do It, and years later collaborated on a Vaughan project under the name Raise, which created a house dance classic in the top 20 R&B cut called Break for Love. Coming from a musical family with a father who played with Benny Goodman, Dial was mentored by the late Jerome of McCoy fame and John C. Freeman, co-writer of the main ingredient soul classic, I Just Don't Want to Be Lonely. Among the other artists Dial has worked with are Imagination, Martha Wash, Loose Ends, The Adventures of Stevie V, Robin S., Byron, Stingily, and Marshall Jefferson, who some have called the Godfather of house music. In addition, Dial has moved in some very funky and freaky circles. He became extended family to P-Funk based on his sister being a superfan and her husband working as one of Parliament-Funkadelic sound engineers. And in the process of being wooed by Rick James's camp, he was afforded an all-access pass to their world. It's time to get Erique out from behind the consoles and keyboards to dial up some insider funk and dance experiences from both sides of the Atlantic. So with all that, Erique, turning to you, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Good to be talking to somebody at home and a Laker fan.
Hey, got to represent.
Oh, yeah. So here we go from Ziski Studios in London. I'm all yours.
Yeah. So is that a famous studio? Is it a lot of folks have used it, or what's the backstory on that studio?
It's just where I'm coming out of in West London. You know, my section, my clique, you know, my man Exano Bass, whatever, is our studio. So, you know, just where we are. It is different places or whatever. It's not like Abbey Road or nothing. It's not.
Cool. So you ready to take on some questions and tell us some stories?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. So Erique, just get us going by telling us a little bit of, you know, your childhood growing up. You came from the musical family, and your dad was a player. So talk about that and how you ended up getting into music.
Okay, I guess I was born into it with my father, because he was a music teacher for the DC public schools, and so music has always been around, you know, from the beginning, some sort of way. I guess it was just that, and my grandmother, she used to like to hum and, you know, music, and she used to say that my father became a musician or something like that because she would always be humming and singing when he was in her stomach. She used to say, because she used to be into bebop jazz, my grandmother, because at that time, that's what the new whatever hip thing. So she'd be humming whatever. And that's what she used to say why he became a musician, because she was always singing or doing something when she was carrying him. But yeah, so music has been there. And my father would play with the Motown acts, whatever, at the Howard Theater. He was one of the members of the Howard Theater house band. So that means the Motown, different people would come through there. So he'd play with them, the Sammy Davises, the Red Fox and stuff. My father would play with, that was his generation sort of legends, Sarah Vaughan and people like that, Temptations. But he wouldn't go and tour though. He wanted to keep the job as a music teacher, public school system. He didn't want to really leave me and my mother as such, you know, go on the road for 6 months, don't come back, whatever. So he just didn't want to do that. So he figured a way that he could play and still be there. So that's what he used to do. Never went anywhere. Just was in Washington for like 60 years. But everyone that comes through though, he would play with. And him and Benny Goodman was friends in this band he was in. This is Howard University Jazz Warriors or something back in the day. So it went from there, and I liked popular music or whatever. First music to sort of have a good influence on me was like funk, whatever. You know, first 45s that I bought was James Brown, Hot Pants, and Gil Scott-Heron, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
So was that 1972?
Around then, or
yeah.
So whenever, but yeah. So it started there. And I didn't know, like for years later, I would meet James Brown, have a little conversation with him, and then I would work for Gil Scott-Heron. Anyway, I was into the bands like everybody else was into, you know, Earth and Fires and the, you know, the Barcades and, you know, there's so many. Can't really put one name, but there was so many. And then with the funk, I was into the funk from Get Up for the Downstroke. So that was kind of a few years before it really broke. Even back to America Eats Us Young, yeah, I was into Loose Booty. I like that Funkadelic song from then. So then, you know, over the years and everything, my sister Candy, she's been friends with George like all her life. So I started wanting to go and be around that because she's always going and knows, you know, her friends and everything. You know, she took me to meet Bootsy. So I wanted to start to see some of that, whatever. And I played clarinet for 8 years, but I got really bored with that clarinet. My father just wanted me to sort of play that. And I was like, wow, you know, I played well. I played for 8 years, but I got very disinterested in the music. So
Were you mostly just playing, you know, band kind of stuff on the clarinet, or?
I was in the school band, yeah, the school band. You know, so you know they play, you know what they play, certain standards and certain whatever. And it was, I mean, that was all right. That was good. It wasn't nothing exciting to me though, or at least playing that clarinet. Drums.
What instrument did your father play?
Saxophone. That was his name was Donald V. Dial. Okay, he played saxophone. That was his instrument that he, you know, got paid and was on stage playing. But he's a music teacher, so you know he gives you that basic keyboard, woodwinds, whatever, as a music teacher would in the school, junior high school.
Do you remember what sax? Because I played alto sax myself, and my son now plays alto sax.
He played alto, tenor and alto. That's what he played, and a little bit of a flute. But those are the ones that he go out and play. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever horn that was, I guess Charlie Parker used to use, because he'd come over my father's come over our house and borrow it. So I might be a tenor. Anyway, I got more, you know, into that type of music. And my Uncle Ron Sutton, he's a sports director for WHUR, Howard University Radio. And this was like back in the 70s time. I would go with him when he used to do his sports show. And I would wander around the radio station and go and find where the promos are, where there's rows of records. And I would just get some, you know, that they had 7, 8, 9 promo copies of everything, more than enough to go around.
Score.
So I was getting like that. And my uncle came and he said, you know what? You got to stop getting all this bubblegum music, and you have to take some of these records that I'm giving you to listen to, or I'm not going to let you get no more of that music, right? Because it used to be bubblegum music, like I guess Earth and Fire or stuff like that. He gave me these albums. He said, look, he gave me this one album, it was Quincy Jones' Body Heat. He gave me some other albums, Eric Dolphy, and then he gave me Herbie Hancock album, and then he gave me Return to Forever album. And he said, you have to listen to that. So I listened to it, and I actually liked that because it had like electronics keyboard. Yeah, you know, Weather Report. And he gave me some other things. He was more like straight ahead. I really gravitated to the electronic part. I went right into it. Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters, Deodato, Chicory and Santana, as all that. I went way into that, the young teen. So I was starting to get as much as that as I was to Earth, Wind, and Fire and Funkadelic and all that. Really was into the fusion, acoustic stuff like that. But it was still some songs on the radio that I like. James Brown, There It Is, and Get on the Good Foot, whoever. It was songs coming out, and that's what I would do. I would just go home, leave a piano at home, and I would, between the radio and this and that, those songs that I like, I would figure those songs out. I'd play those songs, whatever, beat sheets, whatever. Just, play it out in my version, whatever. And it went from there to having friends, childhood friends, who end up being band members in the Midnight Band, because Gil Scott-Heron and Midnight Band. So I had a couple of friends who was a drummer, a guy named Kenny Powell, and Ed Brady, R.I.P. the guitar player. We was childhood friends. So they came in that band. So when they would come to town in DC, whatever, I'd always go and see them. And that spiraled into me meeting Gil and just being around when they was coming around.
But Eric, what year do you think it was when you first met Gil?
1979, 80. Yeah.
So right after he had a big hit with Angel Dust, kind of in that frame.
Yep, it was right in that time. It was right between that and the next album that they had out was going to call it 1980. I think the album was called 1980. It was right at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wax Museum, he done this live thing called Black Wax, this film thing, at this place called the Wax Museum in DC. So that was 1982. So yeah, anytime from there for the next several 8 years. And he just said to me one day, I noticed you like in communication with the band, and we were around and this and that. And he said he was ready to go to Europe to do a tour, and he would need some help if I was interested. So I had to get my passport to him right away so he can give it to, I guess, immigrations and whatever you have to do. And that's how it really started. I was around a lot before that, though. Higher Than July tour, Stevie Wonder, and other dates, and so many places. Because they were my mates. So if I was already there, so it just turned into a job, right? The most important job I probably definitely had in the music business. You know what I mean? His personal assistant and road manager. I didn't know, but I feel that way now. I might have gone way up, but for my sister though, the Parliament-Funkadelic stuff, that was around about the same time as well.
How did your sister first meet the Funk Mob or George or any of those people?
Well, that was with in Buffalo, and with Bob Bishop. Bob worked for them. She met Bob, so basically, I went from there, and that's been 40 years. They're married now, but basically, they've still been together all those years. I've been around with them those years. The people that I know, they're not around. The Boogies, he's not around. Or Ray Davis. I don't see Ray Thomas that much. I see a few of them. So these are the people that I got to come and know, coming to my sister's place, sitting there and whatever, and I'm with them. Me and Boogie was probably the tightest because he was short, whatever, and I wasn't that tall, whatever. And he used to kid around with me, whatever. But he would be the one that look out for me. I'm going to them shows. I'm going to come backstage. He's the one. Get your little ass back here. What you doing? I'm like, there I am. So therefore, I went unnoticed for many, many years. George never even knew who I was really good until 2014. I was in the background. You got to remember, there's like about 20 people in the band, 25 people in the band. They friends with that. It's easily like 50, 60 people around. Anytime.
Do you remember some of the specific shows that you maybe were backstage or around back, in the day?
Washington was a big P-Funk base. Capitol Center. They'd be there multiple times, 21,000 seater, and shows over here. I've seen most of the shows over here in the last several years.
But
this is
in DC, were you at the Motor Booty show?
Yeah, I saw that one. That's one when they was dancing underwater. Yeah, I saw Capitol Center. Yeah, that was good. I saw Mothership. So I saw, that era, that time. But I had to kind of like really, I had to almost not beg myself, but I had to bug her all the time. But she was like, she was Bob, and Bob was the guy mixing the sound at the time. Bob is the one who Bob Bishop mixed the sound for that Houston, Texas concert. They say is supposed to be the most, one of the better concerts. Now, and all those bands, all 25 people and singing and this and that and that. He was the first black guy to mix stadiums and coliseums and that in the United States, doing those festivals and stuff with George and some of the recording United Sound. So I was always with Bob, and Bob would keep me next to him, whatever. Bob is right there. I'm in the console with him. I remember one time in London. Yeah. George had invited more or less anybody who's and who to come on stage or do a number with him or something, right? It was this place called the Ilford Island. I mean, like Jamiroquai, like Josh Stone, like Omar, like whoever, Misha Paris, whatever. And they all done, something with him or whatever. Bob mixed that show. George, anytime, he can call up on a whole lot of people. So I see some people this time, see some people there. Speaker named Barry. Barry used to be out there. I heard somebody talk about Archie Ivy. I knew Archie and Ramon Sproul, R.I.P. He was another one that looked after me, whatever. Was kind of coaching me a little bit when I was trying to write these songs or trying to, actually do it. You know what I mean? Because I was so close to it that I wanted to do it. I mean, I know kind of how, at least go in the right direction. You know what I mean? So when I wrote that song, You Can Do It for Vaughan Mason, that was a direct influence of One Nation Under the Groove and Michael Henderson's Wide Receiver bass line. I sort of like interpreted them. Those are the two, that bass line, that You Can Do It bass line. So that was funk. And when I did that for Ramon said, oh, okay, now you trying to get funky on me. So I said, okay. So I just did that. And that tune caused Rick James' brother, Leroy Johnson. He wanted that song for the Stone City Band. I didn't know anything about anything. That's the first professional song I had written. I had done songs before.
How old did you say you were?
I don't know, 20s, like that. Yep. Yeah, I was just sort of starting. So I stayed with the Vaughan Mason crew, whatever, because I mean, that's what I'd been with, so, but that was, he offered me like, he said, you get 50% publishing and you half of this and that, and he was like, whatever. So whatever would have happened with that, if I would have done that, whatever would have happened with it, wouldn't have been too bad, because that was for the Stone City Band's first album. So, but I was happy for what I'd done. And me and him stayed really friends, and he understood and everything like that. And we was like, pretty much was stayed linked from there. Leroy Johnson, he's come to London and seen me before. So he allowed me to be right next to everything in the Stone City, like everything. I've sat next to Mary Jane Girls in there because he was his manager and his legal, whatever, attorney, whatever. So he ran everything. So I was around and saw a lot. So I got to see a couple different types of funk, like the king of punk funk. You know what I mean? It's funk, but it's just slightly different than P-funk. But it's about that funky, the way he's different style. You know what I mean? It's nothing like P-funk, but the close whatever people that can kind of be around that might be Cameo, Rick James. There's a couple other little names you can name, right? So he's one of those. Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw Rick James in '81 at the Forum in Los Angeles, and it was a heck of a show. I mean, he put on a great show then, and he had the big joint on stage, and it wasn't P-Funk, but it was pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He gives good shows. I remember he was at Capitol Center, and he was talking about he was going to do a movie or whatever. Because him and Prince had the sort of, the competitive edge on each other, competitive. So it was right at that time when Purple Rain and things like that jumped off, and then didn't hear about it, but his shows record, back then it wasn't any sequencing and all this, certain technology that you had, Snow City Band was just that tight. So I was like thoroughly impressed. So I got to be around that a lot. There was another thing called a DC Throwdown tour, Unity tour. All of those. When it came around DC and places I wanted to be at. So I was there to see it. And, I guess you see and you learn. I looked at it as like, learning, seeing it firsthand, So I got to be around a lot to want to be that way. And, having a sister who would just take you to meet Bootsy, just take you to meet him up close and personal in his room, just you, him, and she. So I was like, wow, because that was when I think people were doing concert at Capitol Center. So they stayed at this hotel in DC. It was on Howard University campus. I'll never forget that. We just caught the bus down there and went down there, and she didn't see somebody or whatever. So knocked on the hotel door. And Bootsy opened the door. We was in there. So I was already kind of just, I didn't know how to act really. I didn't just kind of like, okay. And then we talked to him for a little bit, whatever. And then out of the bathroom, like 5 minutes later, Sly Stone came out. So I was like, really like, and Candy always been like that, So I get that star bug because P-Funk and this and her and them are good friends. Her and Frankie and Gary Scheid or whatever. Everybody knew my sister. So it was just like,
Eric, was Bootsy in full Bootsy like regalia, his outfit in the hotel?
no, he wasn't looking like that. No, he wasn't looking all, like today. He looked cool all the time though, but no, he didn't have that on. That's what I mean. He was like, his hotel room. It wasn't even after the show. So it could have been possibly after the show. You might have caught him like that, but it wasn't even like a show yet. No, so they were just chilling. And I talked to Sly Stone, and but I didn't expect to see any of them, but definitely didn't expect to see somebody else right after that. So I was there for a while, and I left. Then after that, I was really more into the music. The other people, like the Ray Davises and different people around them. Overton Lloyd, he's one of the artists that drew the Aqua Boogie cover, and he came over to this house, and we was hanging out, and he was scribbling and doing something like that. And then before he left, he gave me this thing, and then it was me, sort of sitting in the room somewhere with this sort of, his style of art, like in a pencil sort of thing. And I had it for like 10 to 15 years, and then I lost it, whatever. I know that'd be worth something. So he used to be around. He was a real laid back, quiet kind of guy, He'd come around there a few times. Yeah. Jerome Braley, he came down there. That was like when they had that album, when he had his album out, I think it was called Mutiny on the Mama Ship. He came and brought us one of those albums. He brought it from I think he was in Richmond. So I remember hearing that album right from the click, whatever. He brought it over to our spot. So it's people like that I got to see, and Joe Johnson. He was the keyboard player with Bootsy. He was playing with George sometimes with Joe, Frankie Waddy. Yeah, I think I seen them. I think I did when Bootsy came over here a couple of times. I did see some of them because people change and whatever. Like Gary, Buckman Cooper, he was always with Bootsy. So everybody's doing their thing, hard to keep up. But those are people that I knew. Yeah.
So that's impressive. You get to meet all these guys. Is there anything in particular that pops out in your mind that any of them, had personality wise, or that any of them make any jokes with you, or do you get to see any of them singing or doing something interesting?
They always characters or whatever. I mean, sometimes they was on joke time and, you know, downtime when they were there, So yeah, like I said, Boogie used to tease me most of the time. But what you're the last doing here, or those things like that. I wasn't taking serious or whatever, or nothing like that, because I was just I said his little brother, or whatever. I couldn't I didn't have anything. I wasn't, smoking anything. Wasn't, you know, girl as such, or whatever. So I wasn't particularly something, but I was there though. I was just a little brother that was there or whatever. And
Did you notice a lot of drugs going on though? Because I mean, even they'll tell you that they were doing a lot of stuff.
you know, I didn't see anything unusual. But see, basically I'm just, there. I'm not going on back in rooms or whatever. My sister's place. I sit out in the front, or whatever, and just be there. So me, I can't say that. So see, whatever was happening, it didn't just flaunt in my face. I can say that. So, you know, moderate things, people drinking, you know what I mean? But I didn't see anything strange. That was strange enough for me at that time anyway. So I didn't see anything over the top. But they always had their stories and they'd be laughing about, you know what I mean, when they're out and, stuff going on, things like that. All depends on who comes down there. But it's just different people. I've been when Bootsy came down there once or twice. Usually the crew, usually be like Boogie. Sometimes Mike would be there. Yeah. It was the actual shows that I see more of the stuff when they're playing. How it switches just from just being like full on in another sort of level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different people. They're playing, they're different people.
Tell me a little bit more about Gil Scott-Heron. What was he like as a person, as a guy? We know he was a huge talent, but what perspective did you get of him?
Gil was a genius to me. I'm saying I got to be around Gil a lot. Okay. This time he was even living in DC when I started to work with him. That's where he was based at. Gil was very eccentric, whatever, and Gil was very caring, and Gil had a lot of sides to him. Okay, but he was always going to be straight down the line, and he's going to say whatever it is he's going to say, or whatever. Okay, and sometimes you might not have understood it or liked it, and sometimes you might have, but usually all the time later you would understand it, and then you would know why. If that makes sense to you. Was he was Gil was good. I'm saying I remember times when I know we were going out doing stuff, and he was like, "Well, I ain't even getting paid on these few gigs, whatever. I'm just making sure y'all getting paid." It's like that when you the band leader, whatever. You got to pay for everything, blah 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 blah. So he was good like that, and he was warm. But obviously, Gil had his arrogance to him as well because he's a genius, and like all superstar type people have a degree of ego or this fluctuation of an alter ego, you know, that comes with the territory, whatever you get, it happens. But he was very grounded and he had his demons and issues like what everybody has. But when he went onto the stage, I never seen a bad show. Hundreds. I've never seen a bad show. Okay. Despite whatever was going on or whatever he does, whatever. I never seen a bad show, and we talking about like about 2 hours, 2.5 hours straight. and Gil likes to talk a lot. So in between the songs,
Yes.
it's another thing. Okay, so therefore he remembers all the words to his songs, plus the extra stuff that he makes up spontaneously in between the songs. So to me, that has to be like genius, because he remembers his songs. To remember a song like that, and you got all your songs are like that. So it's almost like having a storage, thing right here in the mind for the amount of words, letters, and everything. So I said it's genius. And the books. He was in my studio in my house in DC working on what was gonna be the book that he wrote called The Last Holiday. That was about making Martin Luther King's birthday a holiday and everything. I was with Gil at them times. I remember standing on the Capitol steps when they were doing that lobby thing. Looked up at the top of those steps. There was like 125,000 people at the place. At the top of the steps, there's Gil, Gladys Knight, Jesse Jackson, Stevie, and they're lobbying about doing this holiday. That must have been 1981, perhaps. And then about 5 years later, 6 years later, the holiday came around. That Holiday in July tour was about that. And Gil got that tour because Bob Marley couldn't do it because he got ill at that point.
Mm.
That tour was supposed to have been Stevie Wonder and Bob Marley. Bob got sick and couldn't do it and everything. And Stevie got in contact with Gil to ask him that he fill in for a couple dates here and there, just whatever. And he did. And one day turned to two into three, and 5, 7. Stevie just said to him, "Look, once you come, let's just do the tour." And that's how that came about. But that was 90 days. The Hotter Than July tour. I didn't see but about 10, 12 of those days, but that's how that came about.
I saw that show, that tour at the Forum in Los Angeles, but I don't think Gil was on that one.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was something he went on, but by the time it ended, he was on all of them. When it started out, it was just supposed to be a fill-in thing. And they had one thing they had at the Capitol Center in Washington. It was a United Negro College Fund event or whatever. Everybody was there. It seemed like Chaka Khan, Stevie, this Blow, all these Commodores to do this thing for the charity. I remember I was sitting down, and this guy sat next to me, whatever, quite closely, I would add, and I wasn't also aware of how things are or whatever. I was still kind of green. I just started working for Gil, the stage manager that I get, and the guy that I want to go out and have a glass of wine or something, sit in his car or something like that. That sort of stressed me a little bit, right? So I just got up and walked away though. I didn't say anything with it. And then people came to me later and said, "Oh, you know who that guy was? Why you talking to that guy?" I said, "I really talked to him. Who was that guy?" It was Ron Wood, the Rolling Stone.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know. I didn't whatever. So, I used to run into people like that. But then as I started working, whatever, then I was all right because I would be around a lot of people working for Gil. And here in London, it's Artists Against Apartheid. On that one event, I think it was Sting, Boy George, Sade, all these people on one, Elvis Costello on this one event. So deal with them and do what you have to do. So it just became just the norm after that. You know what I mean? But you have to grow into it because I just got put into.
You were playing keys or programming keys with Gil, or what were you doing exactly?
I was Gil's road manager and his personal assistant. So a lot of times when I'm going out on the road, he's not even there when I'm going out. I'm taking the band out. I have to get the hotels. I got to get the transportation. I got to get the cabs. I have to get to the sound check, to the hotel, get your food, all that stuff. And he comes usually about, there's been times he's turned up 5 minutes before it's time for the gig. Because he doesn't travel with us all the time. He make him take a later flight or come a couple of days. So that's what I done. And then I get the money, whatever, and who needs to what does the Gil want me to do, whatever, that type of stuff I did for Gil. I used to go back then, we used to be Western Union back in times. Basically, like, yep, go to Western Union, get this deposit for so go pick this up, go. So now I go do them, and then come back to the apartment, whatever, and etc. That's the kind of things that I did. Didn't play. I did play one time.
What year was that?
That was like 1985, 1995, 1985, 1990. Yeah, about that time.
Were you still in contact with him when he passed away?
Yeah, I was still all right with Gil until the last. I mean, it was even deeper than that because I had an apartment in DC, whatever, and Gil was living there. Okay, he wanted to live there, whatever. So he was there for like 2-3 years. Yeah. Then I think that's when he got locked up. So even if I wasn't working with Gil, although I was working with a little bit, I've just been around him probably more, unless you were somebody who was in the band, he was keeping you, from 1985 right up until 2009, 10. I was always around Gil.
Did you know how deep he was getting, with his demons? And did you think?
I knew everything. Yeah, I knew everything. And I was intimidated sometimes a little bit by Gil, because Gil can kind of be that way with his powerful personality. So with me, I wasn't going to be saying like something like that. Gil, sometimes you're not even officially in the band until you get fired one time. Okay, so I wasn't in a rush to have that, but yeah, you're not officially into the band. Gil fire you a couple times. So I wasn't in a rush to get fired at any time, so I wasn't really gonna, But yeah, I saw, yeah, but I mean, sometimes you have to just see and don't see, you know what I mean? And I'm there with him, and he's in there writing his books, and he's, his papers everywhere, and his piano's over there, and Chinese food something over there that he hasn't eaten too much of, and he'll just be doing his thing. And sometimes it's a typewriter, man. It's like I don't see these on the typing thing. So that's what I was around, and I'd be coming in from getting some deposits or something that I have to do. We need a van to go to do this thing down in Richmond. So, that's what I mainly did and was on the road.
I had Brian Jackson on this show a few months ago, and he had gone a long period of time where he didn't see Gil, and then when he did see him, it was kind of shocking to him because he wasn't seeing it as it happened like you did. So I guess it was real unexpected for him, but yeah, it's just a shame that it ended up that way. I got to see him at a small club in Santa Monica called McCabe's, probably in the early 90s, just by himself. That's the last time I saw him, and he was still real funny. A lot of people don't realize, I think, how funny and what a great sense of humor Gil Scott-Heron had also.
Oh, he's a comedian. He's a comedian. I mean, Gil said to me, I remember over the time and so many stuff and conversations and all kind of stuff, whatever. Gil is a comedian, yeah, because in between there, he's telling jokes and stuff. You got to be kind of intelligent, but he's telling jokes and stuff, whatever, all the time, Yeah. Sometimes he's mad about it, and sometimes he's really joking about it. Because you know, when we don't like people, he's on things, he kind of turns them into jokes. You know what I mean? With his you know, his words and everything.
With what he did, with Reagan, I would have loved to have seen what he could have done with Trump. It's too bad he didn't get a chance at that.
Well, it would be just like that. It would be the same thing how it was with B movie or We Don't Need No Rerun. It would just be with those words, you know, whatever the new words would be. Because I mean, that's just how Gil was. He could do that how nobody else could do it. But I have met Brian. I've been around Brian before. I have. And he's cool. Yeah, I met Brian, I don't know, several years ago for the first time. I never met the conglomerate. Met this one, worked for this one, then met that one. I never saw the uncut original version live. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you can hear it in Brian. You can hear that you know that was part of the sound. The Rose, whatever, that was part of the sound. Whatever.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I like the thing that I saw as well. I think I saw him. Well, here where I see all the cool stuff on the Truth and Rhythm. I just saw it one day off of the accident, or whatever, and I was like, "What is this?" Whatever. And I was like, "Wow."
Yeah,
You know
he did a great job on that. If you haven't seen that show, check it out. So you ended up having this hit. Let's go back to the Vaughan Mason thing. How did you feel when that song was successful? I mean, what was that like for you, and how did it change your life?
Are you talking about which song? You Can Do It?
Yeah.
It changed well, it did everything at once, if you can understand that, because that I've written, I've done other stuff in the studio. I had other songs. I'm saying the one that's gotten to an artist, a label, and it's gonna come out, and you go to the studio and record it. So it was everything. It was like first time the studio, other than the studio I was going into, the Addict studio in the Addict. That's where it really started from. Okay, this guy John C. Freeman wrote, "I just don't want to be lonely" for the main ingredient. So he was that writer, him and Benny Barrett. He had started a studio type of concept in DC called the Addict. You know, as far as face to face. The Roy Johnson, that's when I met Vaughan Mason. Being in this one studio, which was the hot spot in DC. Okay. So being there had everything to do with it. And then being around John. Because my father was the one who could write everything on the paper and everything. And I had forgotten how to read music. It had been so long since I played the clarinet, you know. That might sound really strange, but I had forgotten, because I mean that's how much playing that clarinet that I really didn't like doing for 8 years, but I was teach myself, play groove on whatever. My grandma used to call it playing by ear. I said, yep. So John showed me that you can actually compose a song without having to write it down on paper. My father was one that he would get a tissue in a restaurant or something and just kind of like, I didn't really know who he was, but I know he knew who he was. I mean, I could break it down. I can't say I couldn't get down and figure it out, but I'm saying he was that way of his compositions. And John showed me that composing a song is no more than just doing it and recording it. And that you have composed something. Maybe it's not the complete, but you composed something. And that's how I was writing all my. They were giving me downtime in the studio when I wasn't doing anything, because I guess he sort of believed in me, whatever, or whatever. And it was Jerome Bell, him and Jerome Bell. Jerome Bell was the lead singer for Vaughan Mason, Bounce Rock, Skate Roll. He was that voice.
Mm.
So being with him and John, they was friends. They were all involved in writing You Can Do It. Their involvements were lyrical and vocal. I had done that entire music track myself. The drums, bass, keyboard, and another guy named Kevin played the guitar for me to get to the level anyway that to Rick James people. Of course, when it's recorded, everyone does their little sort of thing to it, but I had got it to that version that it was interested. So that's how John impacted me. Told me that you can actually compose music.
How long did you work on that?
You can do it.
Yeah. How long did you work on it?
Well, you get your downtime or whatever, right? And basically, sometimes you get 4 or 5 hours, sometimes you don't. But it probably took about 2 sessions, a good 2 sessions for me to get it that way. Okay, so that was probably about 2 7-hour sessions or 6-hour sessions because I'll get the downtime at 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and I could push through sometimes about 6 o'clock. So I'd probably get a couple of those that did it to get that interest. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, wide receiver and One Nation, those are pretty good inspirations.
So those are the songs that I liked. I went on the things that I liked that moved to me. So, of course, One Nation would move me because I was, I was already in that. But then on the outside of that, which I thought was just about as funky at that moment in time, was that Wide Receiver. I thought that was comparable to P-Funk.
Totally P-Funk influenced.
So therefore, bang, I like that. So I said, I just tried the thing with, and that started that. I had done other songs with Vaughan Mason as well. There's a song called Butch and Robin, Don't Make Me Wait. That's on like a German label, ZYX. I played the keyboards on there. And there's been a couple other tunes before or after that you could do it. But yeah, I felt really good. And first record you do and get in a Billboard magazine. My uncle used to say, if you get into a Billboard magazine, then I know you're doing something. So it got onto a Billboard magazine, number 40 in the R&B thing. So I was like, and you got some royalty money as well from the airplay or whatever. But it wasn't no massive hit, but yep. So I was like, actually made some money, Yeah, made a little bit of money and had this breakthrough, whatever. So people took me more serious, I guess, after that point.